freaking watch my videos, and he's telling me go build a tribe, a big giant community, and it seemed like an impossibly hard thing to do. And the beauty of getting to do an interview is I had him come on and I said, look, Seth, first of all, look at all these books. And I showed him books of entrepreneurs who I read and admired. And I said, none of them have a tribe. And look at the smile on his face. That's what I love about people who are in the groove. They know what they're talking about. He loved my challenge. He saw it as like a positive. And he said, yes, Andrew, if you're showing me Ted, the founder of CNN, if you're showing me the founder of Walmart, yeah, they didn't have tribes. But the world is changing, and right now you need a tribe. I see you, Nathan. You've got a huge tribe of people who are following you. And you came out of nowhere podcasting, right? Today you need that if you're going to sell. You had that at Heyo, people who are huge fans of you and then signed up for your software because they trusted you. And that's what he told me. And then I said, all right, so how do I build a tribe? Really, what do we do? What step by step? Walk me through it. And he did. And today I've got thousands of people who are paying members of Mixergy, people who are in my tribe, many of whom actually come into the office. So it's not like some random person online, but it's someone who will come into the office, who will hang out, who cares about what I'm doing and wants to help out, someone who I genuinely care about. And it's all because I didn't just read the book. I didn't just wonder. I got to talk to him. That's why I want more people to do interviews. I want everyone to get that. Everyone who's listening to us, if they're struggling, should not go to their buddy who and frankly, most likely, is not that smart when it comes to business. Not that smart when it comes to what they're trying to do, right? If you're like happy living life right here, you don't want to talk to other people here or below. You want to see, if you're happy living life right here, then you're fine talking to your friends and your peers who are exactly like you. But we are aspiring to something more. We want something bigger. We want to leave a legacy. We do want to build a business. We do want to make money. We do want to be happier and not just accept that life is what it is. And to get up here, we have to talk to people who are there. We have to get to talk to people who've already done that. And I mean real conversations. I think a book is helpful. I don't think it's enough.
So
and that's what I want for everyone who's listening.
Before you go forward, I just want everyone to really get somebody in their mind who is way above them that you would just love to interview. You know, for me, when I first started, that person was a guy named Tim Draper, who was one of the largest VCs in the Valley, and eventually he ended up on my podcast, and it was great. So I want you guys to type that person's name. Okay, type that person's name in the chat right now as Andrew moves forward in his slide deck. HW said, will you replay this later today or tomorrow? No, guys, it's just here live with Andrew. I want you to hit him with questions, hit me with questions, whatever. We're gonna have some fun. So who's the name of that person? And Andrew, I want to confirm, can you see what other people are saying?
No, I can't.
Oh,
they would have to. No, I can't see it.
Okay. I'm not sure. That's okay. So I'll read a few of these. So we've got, someone else saying Tim Draper. Great. But guys, again, who is someone you just really aspire to? If you could get 5 minutes with them and ask them questions, you think it would just rock your world. Who is that person for you? And type it in the chat. Again, we had Denise said James May. Andrew, I don't know who James May is. Do you?
I don't know.
Well,
Denise, who is James May?
Yeah, Denise, we'd love to know that. We've got Dave Wade, said he'd love to talk to Ben Bressington with Cuppa.io. Yeah, that's a good one. James,
I don't know him, but that sounds totally doable.
Think
bigger. Think bigger. Think the people who you've admired. For me, I read Barbara Corcoran's book when I was growing up, largely because as I walked through Manhattan, I would see her name everywhere. I'd say, how did she build up this business? I read a book. I learned something from it, but talking to her in person was so much more powerful. I want you to think bigger. The bigger, the better.
So Emma Darcy said Elon Musk, Sarah Blake. We had Scott Kath said James Daniel May, who's a British television personality.
Okay.
Dale Sibley said Wolf Kahn, who's an artist. We had Joe Cross said Tony Robbins. All right, Andrew, show them the light. How do they get to these people?
Oh, totally. Okay, so let me actually, when it comes to getting guests, I'm scrolling through here. I want to show you this one thing. When you're talking about Tony Robbins, let me tell you about this guy, Sam Wiley. He is a billionaire on the Forbes 400 list and has been for a long time. I asked him to do an interview, and he said no. And this is me. I saw him in person. We talked. I have a friend who's a friend of his daughter. Through the connection, I thought I'd be able to get him on. I couldn't do it. Then this little guy who never met him before, this Gregory Gallant, a guy who I really like, who just had a little interview show, freaking had him on. He did an interview with him. And so I went to a friend and I said, look, tell me what happened. What did I do wrong here? Why did Sam Wiley say no to me? And he said, well, when did you ask him? And I told him, we talked a little bit, and he said, that's your problem right there. He said Sam did a bunch of interviews, a bunch of press when he published his book, and then he's done. He's so exhausted talking to people, he does not want to do that anymore. And so if you come even a month after someone's gone through their promotion period, that's it. It's over. They're not going to say yes, even if you know them, even if you're friends with their daughter. It doesn't matter. So what you want to do is, as you can see from the slide, you want to find people's motivated moments, those times when they're especially eager to say yes. And there are lots of them. Publishing a book is a good one. Let me show you, because I want to be really practical. Let me show you how you do that. Barnes & Noble. I know we don't use Barnes & Noble to buy anymore. We're all on Amazon. Barnes & Noble actually has a really good list of upcoming books. What you want to do is scroll around and look through your category for the book that you want to have, for a book that fits your topic. And so what I found right here is one that kind of fits, and I want you to see how I think about it. This is a book about running. Doesn't fit Mixergy. Mixergy, my interview site, is all about doing interviews with entrepreneurs. It's not about running. But if I just spend a moment, I see here that the Oatmeal is a guy who actually has an online business. He's a cartoonist. He publishes and sells his own posters. He's a guy who's run a successful company. I would have him on to do an interview on Mixergy, right? So he's now in a motivated moment, about to have a published book. It's in the coming soon list. There's someone who I should consider. And it's not just me. If you're in health at all, he's someone who could be a really good fit for you. If you are into art in any way, he's someone who could be a good fit. So let's go over to the next step. We click on his book link, and we see the name of the publisher, really public information. And there it is right there. I can give you the phone number and contact of his publisher, where you can ask the publisher to make an introduction. Every book in this list has that. So now, how do we tie this back to Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins was publishing a book, actually had a hardcover published, and then he did it again paperback. He was on this list before the book came out. If you wanted to have him on, you could go to the publisher. You can ask the publisher for help. You can start reaching out through other channels. For most people, just asking the publisher will help, will get you the guest. That's their job, especially today when writers feel like they don't even need publishers. In other cases, someone like Tony Robbins, you probably need to email a couple of other people in his team to get him to say yes. But if you saw him being interviewed everywhere and you felt like, well, this guy's a little overexposed, well, there's a reason for it. There are all these people who see the opportunity and they're jumping on it. You have to, if you want to get a guest, you have to jump on that.
Joe Cross, there you go. You said Tony Robbins was your man. Andrew just kind of broke down exactly, again, how to do that. Hey, Andrew, is there a way to tell, because ideally you want to catch people when they're just starting their promotion schedule, they're motivated versus on the back end. Do you have any trick to catch that like a month before they're about to start so you can get ahead of the curve?
Once it hits the list over here, the book has a cover. The book is on the coming soon list. It's about a month or two before they publish. Once it's on here, it's good to go.
Great.
Once it disappears, it's a lot harder.
Great. Well, Joe Cross said, boom, exclamation point, exclamation point. Love that idea, Andrew. Thanks.
And let me tell you something else I've learned about authors, that a lot of times they expect that once they write a book, their lives will change and the whole world will change because they published the book. Like they have this vision that they just completed the super marathon of publishing, right? Of writing, of getting promotion. And it doesn't happen. About a month afterwards, they feel a little embarrassed that things didn't turn out the way that they expected, and they're a little tired of talking about the book and a little embarrassed by how different it is from where they wanted to be. They don't want to say yes at that point. Right? It's like after you've eaten a really good meal and you feel stuffed, you just are done. You're a little disgusted with yourself for having eaten so much. So you want to get them just before they're starting to go, just when they're planning. A lot of times they'll have someone there ready to assist them to get an interview, ready to assist them to get promotion.
Great.
I love that. Hit me. What other questions do you have, or do you want me to talk about one other thing here?
Keep going. And I want just to be clear to folks, Andrew does not do these kinds of things. So like we'll say when we're kind of changing slides, I see some of you are kind of minimizing and maximizing and going back and forth. He's about to go to a next slide. So you want to re-engage, maximize your screen real quick, and Andrew, keep going.
Yeah, I want to also deal with this one issue. People are saying that there are too many interview programs, right? You go to the iTunes store, it feels like everyone's doing one. I think there just aren't enough. First of all, you want to think beyond the podcast. Yes, podcasting is really big. You and I talked about this. Advertisers are ready to throw money at podcasting, and I'm jumping on that. I'll take their money, and I think anyone listening to us should be podcasting. But I want us to also think beyond it, and I want us to think more creatively about the kinds of interviews we can do. So look at some of these examples of people who've listened to Mixergy who are doing interview shows. We're talking about people who are doing shows for the hip-hop community, for the domaining community. We're talking Steve Young. He's doing it for mobile apps because that's what he's excited about. We're talking about Ramit Sethi in the upper left. He's doing interviews with people uh, who he wants to learn from, and then he's publishing it to an audience who he's charging $50 a month to listen. Interviews have gone on forever. Look at these guys, right? Johnny Carson did it decades ago. You're looking at Fox News. They started out, they didn't have reporters out in the field, not like CNN. They started out by doing interviews. Oprah, Charlie Rose, this has been going on forever. I want you to see that there's a big opportunity. It keeps on happening forever. Conversations will never die. You want that, and you want more than that. Look at this guy, Derek Capo. He's a listener of Mixergy. He emailed me to say that when he started listening to Mixergy, he thought he wanted to throw himself out a window. He was in such bad shape. But he started listening to Mixergy interviews. He started learning from those entrepreneurs. He built up a business that was doing so well that I interviewed him once he crossed that $1 million mark.
Look at that smile. Look at that picture.
Yeah, right? And if you look at me, I rarely smile. I have to learn to smile. I actually should have one of those signs here on my screen, smile. I'm so intense. But even I'm smiling there because I'm excited. Look at what the guy was able to do.
Yep.
So it's not just about us learning. It's also about impacting the people who are going to be listening to our interviews. I wonder if you could, let's ask the audience, what kind of impact do you want? We think a lot about money, but I think it's important for us to ask ourselves, what impact do I want? Who do I want to touch? How do I want to affect their lives? Dale Carnegie is the guy who impacted me so much. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I started to make friends when I was in school. I knocked on the door of Dale Carnegie and Associates in Midtown Manhattan. I said, I want to volunteer here. I want to work for you guys for free. What do I do? That's how much impact. Meanwhile, Dale Carnegie was dead by the time I knocked on his office door. His company still went on. And he still had impact on me long after he was dead. We have that power right now. We should take that power. We can do it through these interviews.
I'll tell you too, Andrew, it was very interesting. And guys, again, while I'm telling this, just type in the chat the number one thing you're trying to get out of interviews. Like, are you trying to build a kind of a revenue stream around it? Are you trying to launch a podcast around it? Trying to do a YouTube series around it? Are you trying to just meet new cool people? Just type what your thing is in the chat real quick. And Andrew, I'll tell you, something crazy happened to me, and I can only blame this on psychology. You probably have a much smarter answer. When I used to reach out to people, like when I was building Heyo, and I'd go, hey, I want to talk to you for like 10 minutes. You know what? You're smiling because you know where I'm going with this. The answer is always no. Now I go, hey, I want to interview you. Like, I want to feature you for 10 minutes. It's like, yes. Everybody says yes. It's like the framing about being interviewed and letting them get exposure is so different from let me pick your brain for 10 minutes. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And they're going to give you way more time, way more attention. They'll be more prepped. And then, look, you actually did an interview with me. You remember not only that you did the interview with me, but you remember that you got customers from having done the interview. That's huge. You are learning, but you're also leaving an impression on the person you're learning from.
Yeah. So, hey, I have let me read a few of these. We've got Michael on. I love Michael. So he's using kind of information you're sharing right now, Andrew, and some other stuff to launch his podcast, interviewing his own heroes. Scott Kath said, I'm liking this. It's great. Greg Marcus says, I want to do this really just on a more spiritual level, to connect soul to somebody. I help somebody.
Yeah.
Andrew, you have full permission to talk about this. When I first met one of the first times I met Andrew in person was over dinner after Dane Maxwell cut his finger, and we all almost went into shock from seeing blood everywhere. But Andrew somehow in the first 10 minutes was able to go, Nathan, are you a virgin? And it got my whole sex life in 2 minutes. I'm like, how the hell does this guy do this? So Andrew, keep going, man. How do you do this?
Oh, that's a good one, actually. I actually have really spent a lot of time studying how to ask questions that get people to feel comfortable answering them. And you don't just want them to feel comfortable, you want them to also be interesting about it so that they feel good about what they've shared. So I have this doc that I created. Let me see if I've got that for you guys that I can show you. No, I don't have it. I don't have it. All right, I'll show you the technique that I use. I don't just say, are you a virgin? First of all, there's a reason why I want you
Do
to
it on me
talk.
right now.
Well, the way I ask is I say, do you feel comfortable saying when you lost your virginity?
Oh, interesting.
Right?
No, Andrew, no. I really don't feel comfortable talking about that.
That's totally fine. I don't want to take you to a place where you don't feel comfortable. And the fact that I just created that compound question means that you can answer the one that you want to answer. So I've said, do you feel comfortable? That's one question. And the second question is, when did you lose your virginity? Right? So now I've asked you two questions in one. You always will pick naturally. You'll pick the easier of the two questions for you to answer, which for you is to say, no, I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Try that out. It's a really easy way to ask a tough question.
So what if your audience on Mixergy, you know that they're going to view the whole interview if the guest actually gives the answers to the tough questions? So if you feel someone dodging in an interview, how do you get them to answer the tougher question?
Okay. What you do is you say you can't say, well, you can say I think you're dodging, but that creates a dynamic, a combative dynamic where they think that now they have to prove to you that they're not dodging. What you have to say is there's someone in the audience right now who's really struggling and he's trying to figure out how to get his first customer. What would you tell them about how you got your first customer? You put the question in someone else's mouth. So there's someone who wants to ask, someone in my community who wants to ask Gary Vaynerchuk a really tough question that's important to him.
What's the
Basically, sorry?
What's the question?
Here's a question. He's looking at Gary Vaynerchuk and he says, this guy looks so tired and haggard, right? And old now from having done all this. At least to this guy. He's a 22-year-old person, so Gary seems old to him now at this point. So he wants to say, as all this hard work that you've been putting in, waking up at 6 o'clock, staying out till 11 o'clock, having dinner with clients, working hard in between, is that actually aging you? And is it worth it? Now, if he asks that, if he says, hey, are you aging? You're looking old, it comes across as combative. So I said the better way to do it is go check it. Go look on YouTube comments. See if other people have said this. And then find one or two and say, look, I was looking at your comments and I see someone else has said this. What do you respond to that? Is it worth it? Are you actually being damaged by this hard work?
Yeah. Gary, many people are saying that you're killing yourself from this. I don't know. You tell me, am I crazy? Are they right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And then what the audience remembers, if I ask it that way, the audience remembers that I said, hey, you're looking old. And so I always come across tougher. I always come across like I'm asking a more gutsy question than I really am. But the truth is I'm asking it in a way that takes away a lot of the pain from it. It makes it easier for the person to respond.
Yeah. That's great, man. It's such a, yeah, I choose to be combative because I know it works for my audience. And sometimes I make enemies from that. But I always watching you ask some of these things and then still stay friends with most of the people you're interviewing is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and by the way, when I'm asking you about your virginity, I don't interviews and I don't ask that of everyone. But I do try when I talk to people in person to get to the personal stuff. And I think we all should. We shouldn't have conversations about what did you do for work today? How is your morning going? It's too empty. We want to get to the personal stuff because that's how people feel bonded to each other. That's why they care about us, right? We left that dinner, everyone felt so much closer, even though some of us had just met that night. Olivia, my wife who was there, met someone else at the dinner, Nisha at the dinner, they stayed friends, right?
Yeah,
For years afterwards. Sorry?
Yeah, Nisha Moodley, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was when we both met her for the first time at that dinner. And you only have that when you get really close and personal with people. So let me tell you another way to get personal with people. Now we're really off the slides here.
You guys, yes or no, you like when Andrew goes off the slides. Like most websites, they're like they're corporate-y, they're boring. I think people in the questions right now, they're going to go, hell yes, we love unfiltered, raw Andrew.
Good.
Good.
And this is something that I think you start to learn from doing interviews, how to have real conversations with people. It's more than just the interviews. What you want to do as a questioner, as an interviewer, as a conversationalist, is be a good listener, and everyone always says that, but what does it mean? Let me give you an example of how to do it right. We had a Thanksgiving dinner at my house a few years ago. This guy comes up the stairs, because we're in San Francisco, we live on a hill, so he comes up the stairs to the first floor, And as soon as he gets in, he says, sorry, I'm so late. Now that we're divorced, everything takes twice as long. I have to like figure out, is my daughter's sweater at my house or at her mom's house? And
Wow.
everything has to go back and forth. Is it okay if she stays out later, or does she need to be back home tonight so that she could go out tomorrow morning? Everything takes twice as long. And of course, there's insane traffic now in the city because everyone's moving to San Francisco for the tech boom.
Hmm.
As soon as he said that, and I wonder what anyone in the audience would actually respond to that. As soon as he said that, everyone at my living room said, oh, forget about that. Now you're home. You should just sit and relax and just enjoy yourself. Or they said, yeah, there is a lot of traffic here. I don't even know how to get to work anymore. I think I'm going to telecommute. Nobody picked up on the fact that this guy said, I am going through a divorce and life is twice as hard. He is begging for someone to talk to him about that. He is reaching out and saying, here's a personal part of my life. I want you to pick up and ask about that.
Mm-hmm.
What we as interviewers need to do, what we as conversationalists need to do is pick up on what I call the shoved fact, right? He shoved that fact in the conversation. He could have just said, sorry, I'm late. He could have just said, sorry, I'm late, there's traffic. He could have said, thanks for waiting for dinner. He had to shove that fact into the conversation about being going through a divorce, because he wanted people to know that this is what's going on in his life and what he wants to talk about. And we have to ask questions about it. We have to say, so what is a divorce like? It doesn't even have to be the most educated question. It doesn't have to be the most cleverly phrased question. Just ask about what they're going through, and then you'll have the reputation of being concerned and in getting people to open up. And all you have to do is look for what they want you to be concerned about and open up about. It's killer stuff.
Yeah, that is powerful stuff. Let me real quick. Joe had a question that I missed, Andrew, that I wanted to get to you. How do you land an interview with someone who doesn't have a motivated moment?
Okay. For some people, it's not just a moment in life. It's life that's the motivation. So I interviewed someone earlier today. Goulet Pens is his website. He sells pens, high-end pens. This is like a $2 pen.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be seen dead with that pen. Yeah, there you go. No. The pens on his website sell for hundreds of dollars. He's not coming to do an interview on Mixergy because he needs to sell another pen. He's good, right? And the Mixergy audience is all techie. They're not buying pens. He's not doing it for that. His motivation is he's an entrepreneur who'd been through all this. He just wants to share. He wants to tell what he learned when he nearly went bankrupt doing this, when he decided that he was going to be an entrepreneur, when he figured out where his customers were, when he figured out whether or not to take funding, whether or not to take on debt. He wants to share it. And whether it's just with me or me and 2 people in the audience or me or 2,000 people in the audience, he doesn't care. He just wants to share. And so for a lot of people, that is true. For other people, they just want the Google hit. They want another thing written about them because they can't keep saying, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. They have to have other people show that they care about them enough to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has some motivation. The motivated moment is the best point for you to ask, but it's not the only point, not nearly.
Yep. I'll share sometimes. I've never heard this framework you're presenting. I'll use it in terms of motivated moment. I've never gone to Barnes and Noble, looked at upcoming books, things like that. But sometimes what I'll do, if I watch someone keynote on stage or watch a YouTube video of them, and I think they respond well to somebody not liking them, all of us, if we know someone's mad at us, we always want to address that person and get them to like us again.
Yeah.
It's like a high risk kind of strategy, but sending an email to them with the subject line that says, I disagree with ego is the enemy, very easily lands you an interview. It did with me, with Ryan, and we debated, and it was a great interview because we disagreed the whole time. So I don't know, Andrew, if you've used that or if you have a better way to kind of name that tactic, but it's worked well for me.
I like that. I don't have a name for it. I think it's very effective. I think it's very effective for you. And it's not necessarily going to work for everybody. No, it's not going to work for everyone. Because when you say that, there's a nuance to how you say it that makes people still like you, that makes them still feel that they care enough to talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
I don't know that I could pull that off, frankly.
Yeah. Who knows? But so go back real quick to go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something because we talk about who your ideal person is to interview, and I want everyone who's listening to me to interview. Frankly, if you would, please, if you're ready to take on the challenge, I will help you. I'll be here. I'll answer any question you want. If you want to be an interviewer and you're ready to say yes, please, in the chat, say yes. let Nathan know. I want to know that you're ready to do it. Even if you don't use anything that I teach you, I want you to do it. And when you're ready, get in there and say, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be an interviewer.
And if you
And I will help you if you are.
Capital letters, exclamation points, crazy characters
Yes.
from a Japanese dictionary. I want it all, baby. I want it all.
Right. Right. I'm telling you, it'll change your life. It's not just Nathan and I who did this. I was reading about Richard Branson. In one of his books, he talked about how he started his career by doing interviews. And by doing interviews, he learned how to ask questions. He learned how to take notes on what people are saying. If you see Richard Branson to this day, even though he's got enough money to hire somebody to go and take notes by his side, he has a notebook and he personally takes notes.
Yep.
Because he's learned how to pay attention and what to pay attention for when he's having a conversation with someone. It goes back to doing interviews. If you think that he is too out of reach, there's a woman who I interviewed named Heidi Roizen who started out working at a company. She wanted to rise up in the ranks. She wanted to be somebody in this world and have an impact. She decided that she was going to start an internal newsletter at her company, not for people outside the company, just internally. And she did it so she could interview the CEO of her company. By doing those kinds of interviews, not just with the CEO, but she eventually went out to others, she learned from them. She built a company. She sold it. Today, she's one of the most famous venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. People love to partner up with her. Wow. We're talking about more than just an interview show. We're talking about a life of impact on yourself and on your audience. That's what I want everyone who's out there to do.
Joe says yes. Gail says I want to do it with exclamation points. Greg is in. Ravi's in. Joe's in. Andrew, people are loving it. So I mean, it's great. It's important. Tell me, unless you've got kind of a segue you already wanted to go into, tell me real quick, kind of tactically about growing your first few interviews in terms of views, which then creates leverage for you to get new people kind of on your show because you can point to you got 10,000 views.
Good. I want everyone who's doing interviews to do it to learn, but I also understand that you want to have a bigger audience, and I also understand that you care about revenue, and I want you to care about revenue. So we'll talk about both those things. Let me slide over here. I want to show you guys.
Well, you guys guide Andrew, actually. I don't want to be selfish here. There's a lot of people on yes or no. Do you want to know about kind of the more kind of like, I don't want to call it internet marketing, but the how do I get more views and drive revenue from interviews? Just type yes if you're interested in that. And if not, we'll go a different direction. Just type yes if you want that. And if not, we'll go a different direction. Okay, Joe Cross said, of course. Robbie said, yeah. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of yeses. So yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Good. I think it's really important. Here's one of the people who I interviewed, Vishen Lakiani. I always struggle with his name the first second. I have to take a beat to get it right. I interviewed him about how he founded Mind Valley. He took the interview. He posted it on his Facebook page. You see that it got a spike in traffic.
Go back so we can read that real quick. Just
yeah. This is what he posted on Facebook.
Yeah. 202 comment or likes, over 32 shares. You guys can read that. It's on the screen now if you want. Now did you ask for this, Andrew, or is natural?
Good question. I asked.
Yeah. I want to know how you asked.
This is something that I learned. So we teach a course at Mixergy about how to do interviews, and I had someone on who's a well-known interviewer, Jordan Harbinger, actually.
Yeah, Art of Charm.
Yeah, and so he was in there, and he was learning, but he was also teaching other people in the course and in the community. And one of the things that he said was, I ask people to help me promote it. And I said, that's not good. You're not there to ask them for help. It becomes like this conspiratorial thing where you help them, they help you, and no one does a good interview because it's now promotion for them. They said, I asked them to do it, and it kind of stuck in my head. And what I realized was, I should just ask after the interview's done. We've already said everything. I don't care if they don't do it, but I should at least ask. And so now after an interview's done, I say, I'm going to share it with my audience. Would you mind helping me promote it by sharing it with your audience? And that's it. And people do.
I love that about you, that you can ask that so softly and get it. I am so much more like, hey, just want to let you know our production costs for this interview are about this much money. This much goes to the audio production. This much goes to the show notes. This much goes to graphics. So I'm going to spend that money. And I've already spent on growing the show about this much money, 10, 11, whatever it is. I'd love for you to share the episode. You don't have to. It's going to get great views without it. But would you share it? And typically after I guilt the hell out of people, they say yes. Maybe that's bad long term. Who knows? But it works.
If it works, it works. I'll give you two other things to do, actually. The second thing that I recommend doing is saying how. So they say, yes, I'll promote it, but they're not thinking what they're going to do. They think maybe emailing 2 or 3 of their friends is what you're after. But if you say how, they'll spend some time thinking about it with you there, about how to grow it. And they'll say, my Facebook audience is really big.
Huh.
So that's number one. The second thing is, a lot of people are not like Vishen. He is someone who feels very comfortable sharing his own stuff because he's comfortable in his skin and because he knows how online promotion works.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's like him. And not everyone like him has a big audience.
Mm-hmm.
So actually what I do is I see who else is connected to him, who cares about him, who loves him, who's in business with him, who's proud of him. And I reach out to them and say, would you help by tweeting this out? Or I say, look, I had an interview with him. I know you guys are connected. If you think your audience would like it, would you mind tweeting it out? Would you mind posting it on Facebook? Mm-hmm. And that's how you don't just want them, you want their posse. You want their friends.
I have to pull that out real quick because I want to make sure you guys caught that. Again, the most powerful marketing, especially if it's about you, is if you can get somebody else to say it. So like Andrew's creating this asset, which is like, think of it like a great headline, right? It makes my ego big, makes me feel great. But it loses some validity if I'm the one sharing with my audience. But if I can figure out to put it in someone else's mouth, that's great. And if Andrew can actually be the one, because it benefits him to put it in somebody else's mouth, that's even better. And Andrew, I saw kind of this happening, and one of the things I started doing is just going to look at the last 5 or 6 people that tweeted with that person, and tweeted to them and said, "Hey, I know you just spoke with Andrew. I don't know if you know this, but he makes like $700 million a year. That's what he did last year. Here's the interview. Retweet it." Or their investors. I go on Crunchbase and look at all their investors, right, and I'll tweet to the investors, and the investors retweet it. But it's such a smart strategy. I want to make sure you guys write that down and pull it out.
Yeah, everyone's got someone in their posse that you can get. For me, it's if you email my assistant and say, "Hey, I think that the Mixergy audience would like this. Do you think it's worth tweeting out on the Mixergy account?" She'd find a way.
Yeah.
Right? She wants to support.
Yeah. Hey,
so it's important to show here.
Slide. I know I cut you off. You had a traffic slide coming up.
Right. This is the traffic from the interview. You can see it popped up from this one interview.
Wow.
Right? But what I want people to pay attention to is not just that big spike the day that he posted it, but I want you to see what happens afterwards. There's ongoing traffic coming into the site from that one interview. That one interview is still working for me to this day, and we did it years ago.
This is 50, 60. I mean, you guys can look here on the screen. If you've minimized, you want to maximize your screen and look at this real quick, maybe screenshot it. But I mean, this is like 40, 50 views a day. I mean, if you're paying to get these clicks, paying $1 per click on Facebook, that's $50 a day you're getting free.
And it's really qualified people who are searching for him. And frankly, he's not the most popular person on the site. I don't know how many people know Vishen. Mm-hmm. I know him. I love his work. I love him as a person. I love his company. But he's not a superstar the way that others are. And that's what's important to know. Every interview you do starts working for you to bring in traffic to you.
Yep. Smart.
There's something else here. Look, this is Basecamp, the company that used to be 37 Signals. They posted it on their blog. For them, their blog was super popular. They posted there. Everyone has their own way. You want to figure out what it is and just encourage them to promote, to help you do it. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
Okay. We've asked tough questions. I was just doing this weird thing with my mouth. Yeah. We've asked tough questions of our interviewees. I'd like someone who said yes to doing an interview, who said that they could do this, that they want to do this, to ask us a tough question. What's one tough challenge that you have? And if you want to come on camera and ask it, let's bring you on camera so that I answer your question. I want you to go out there fully prepared to do your interviews.
So guys, what you want to do, if you have your mic connected and you've got a question, just type yes in the chat right now. I will get you I'll get you unmuted. Let's real quick, Dave Wade, your microphone's unmuted. Are you there?
Yeah. Hey, Dave.
Okay, Dave got a lot of feedback. Dave, I'll come back to you. We'll try and get that feedback fixed. Emma, I've got you unmuted. Is your microphone connected? Emma Darcy? That's the scramble, Andrew. That's the
yeah.
Emma Darcy, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah. Great. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you guys?
What do you think about this guy? What do you think about Andrew? He's killing it, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really fascinated, actually. I think it's really great to be asking people kind of intriguing questions and also, interesting questions as opposed to, bland question. So I think that's great.
Good. Are you going to be doing interviews?
Yes, I'm looking at starting a podcast, and actually next month I am putting together a summit, an online summit. So I will be interviewing people, and hence being on tonight, because I want to be able to ask people, I suppose, probing questions that the listeners will get something from it, as opposed to just kind of par for the course sort of thing that's I see a lot of people doing. So I like some of your suggestions, Andrew, for sure.
Good, good. What challenge do you have coming up with doing your podcast?
I suppose one thing is just even reaching out to people. In terms of there's this, I suppose, imposter syndrome partly, in terms of, not just how do you do it, but even, I suppose, just getting up the guts to do it sometimes, which might sound silly, but yeah, that's kind of part of my thing. And then obviously just going and doing it, and then I suppose the third part then is making sure you do a good interview in terms of asking interesting questions that actually matter to people, as opposed to just going through the motions of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course I teach people how to figure out what their audience really needs to know, not just what they want to know, but what they're desperate to know, and that's important. You do want to start with asking what are the questions that your customers have. I also give people, and I want to show you my screen in a second, because there's something that you said that's really important that I want to bring up here. And while I do it, I'll say that we also give you scripts, because I know it could be hard to figure out what to say to a guest to get them to say yes, to get them to do it. But there's something really important. Let me see if I could actually show this here. Oh yeah, this is it. Oh, I hate that everyone's seeing this, but I think it's important to show. Can you guys see my screen yet?
Yeah, wow, okay.
Gotcha.
This is my booking sheet.
Oh my God, Andrew, you're an animal.
You do not want to think about sending out one interview at a time. What you want to do is think about this bigger. You look at this. This is every step in my interview process. From number 1, column A, suggest a guest. Column 2, I want someone else on my team. Now I have a team doing this, but I started out using this on my own. So I have someone, column 2, approve a guest that's suggested. So let's add a guest right now together. I want you to see this. I want you to think bigger. I want you to think systems. I want you to think in an organized way so you're not embarrassing yourself. So let's do...
Are you suggesting I would?
No, I think that a lot of people, not you, but who knows, you might. I think a lot of people do embarrass themselves, and they do themselves a disservice with the way that they ask people for interviews. I think well, we'll get into the problems later on. I want to get a lot in here. Someone said Steve Jobs. Let's pretend Steve Jobs is a person that we're going to get on here. Here's his organization name. I type it in. I want a deal title, meaning the headline. I want us as a team at Mixergy, when we're suggesting a guest, to think about what's the headline that we want for them. So in this case, it's how he built the most valuable company in the world, right? I think at one point he hit that number, and I'm going to hit save, right? And so now his card is right here. Once someone on the team approves them, this card goes here. Then we find an email address, and there are systems for finding email addresses. We have a whole spreadsheet that anyone can use to find an email address of anyone, including Steve Jobs, literally, including Steve Jobs. Then we invite the guest. Then we remind them. By the way, let me stop here for a second. Most people send out an invitation. They don't get a response, and they say, nobody loves me. We send out an invitation. We don't get a response. We have another column called remind them to do a frickin' interview. It's not top of mind.
How soon would you send a reminder? When, like, if you ask somebody today and they didn't ask, do you like wait 2 or 3 weeks, or?
I would do less. I would do a week. I would hit reply in the original email and say, not sure if you got it, but I really want you on because I'm a huge fan, and then, or because of whatever, and then you get them on. I would even recommend you go beyond what we do. We send 1 reminder. I'd like you to send out 3.
Okay. And can I just ask you as well, if you're sending an invitation, do you send like video, or what's the best way to invite people in the first instance?
I do it via text, but you can experiment. And this process allows you to experiment because you get stats using this Pipedrive. You get stats from Pipedrive showing how many people you've invited. Let's talk about, you know what, actually it goes all the way to the end. If we won, it means they're on the site. If we lost, I want someone to actually record why we lost him, so that even if it's only for your own notes for yourself, I want you to be aware of why you lost someone. I want you to hear the common reasons. If you hear over and over again, too busy, you have to start to respond to that in your emails by saying, I know you must be busy, but this is only going to take 10 minutes, right?
Okay.
You have to keep track of why. For me, as a bigger team now, it's critical for me because this is the only way that I get a sense of what's going on in my team. But if you're doing it for yourself, you still have to take notes of this. So right now I'm going to say he's dead, unfortunately, right? Here's what's important here. You're talking about, most people talk about sending out 10 requests a day. You have to be a machine, a monster, whatever your analogy is. You have to really want it. We as a team want 10 suggestions every day when we're in interview mode. I'm actually unwinding the interviews now because I'm taking the summer off. Mixergy will actually continue to publish over the summer, but I won't be recording interviews. I'll be sitting on in Napa Valley in the sun. Right?
Drinking that wine.
Right. Actually, I don't drink wine, but I do love Napa. I especially love going with wine drinkers because I can enjoy the atmosphere and they could drink and I could drive home.
There you go.
What I want you to do is have a firm commitment to the number of requests that you send out, whether you're doing interviews, whether you're selling, whatever it is. And what I like about Pipedrive for this is that Pipedrive will actually keep track of how many you sent out so that you hold yourself accountable. Did you really send out 10? So a moment ago you asked, you said, do you send it out via video, via text? Here's another reason why this is important. You try sending out 10 via video if that's what feels right to you. Then you try sending out 10 via text. Then you try sending out 10 via short emails, maybe 10 via long emails, and you experiment and you see what gets the people to move all the way to the right. And what does is what you repeat. What doesn't, you get rid of. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
This is how you improve as an individual, and then you bring this to your team as someone who's not just kind of trying to figure it out and can't run a company, but maybe you'll hire someone who can do it. This is what you bring to a team, and they feel like you are in control. You are someone worth working with.
Yep. Emma, what'd you think? Did he answer your questions?
Yeah, I think it's good. Can I just ask one more thing, if you don't mind? Just when you're inviting people, do you kind of say to them, more around kind of the benefits to them, or, what do you focus on? Do you, like say for instance, like what's the topic of the podcast or whatever you're interviewing them for, or do you put what's in it for them, or is it just a mix, or how do you approach that?
I'll tell you what's worked for me. What's worked for me was being really clear. Can I interview you? And then saying the date. Actually, what I use is a different piece of software that makes it easy for them to find the date on their own calendar that works for them and then book with me. But being very clear, first sentence, this is what I'm asking. Second sentence, why they should do it. Third sentence, who else has said yes that they would care about and admire. And then one sentence in there about what I am and what Mixergy is. I want to keep it really short.
Okay.
What most people do is say, I've really been a big fan of yours. I really like what you're doing. I love what you said the other day. You've had huge impact on me. And the person just flattered, but they don't know where this is going. And then at the end, it's something like, if you ever want to, I'd love to learn from you, without explicitly saying, can I interview you?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Great.
Emma, thanks so much. We'll have more questions at the end.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
You bet. Andrew, we've got more questions from Michael. I want to make sure, though, so we have about 20 left, maybe more. Is there more content you want to get to first, or should we take one or two more questions?
I'll take anything that people want to know. I can show how to generate sales from this or anything, frankly.
Okay. Let's, real quick, I'll unmute Michael. We'll get Michael's question. Michael, what's up, brother man? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you great. And if you have your webcam, feel free to turn it on. If not, no worries. What do you think about Andrew?
Here, let me. Oh, it's great, and thanks for sharing your kind of like the back end pipe drive. It was just I love seeing. I just love seeing that. It's so clean, it's so efficient. It works. You can hold yourself accountable. Three interviews or 10 interviews. So, thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to be launching a podcast in the men's space. The working title is just like the podcast for men. I'm not worried at all about finding people to interview. I already have a ton of just relational capital. It's funny that you spoke of Dane. Dane's like one of my best friends, and so that piece is solid. Just what's not is, or here I'll just kind of out myself. I've been studying a lot of the stuff that Nathan's been sharing on how he runs his podcast. Some of like the most valuable content, in my opinion. My girlfriend runs a podcast. I already have someone who's going to produce it. My question was actually like, do the listens from the website count towards your iTunes listens? Like on the example with Vision, when someone clicks on the web plugin. And I think my deeper question there is like, does that even matter, since the goal is probably getting them on the email list anyway? So I think underneath that question, I'm outing myself as like, I tend to do all the research before I jump into something, instead of just like launching something and like learning and going and doing it at the same time. So that's a lot there, but
I get that. One of the problems that I discovered was that people who were signing to Interview Your Heroes were over researching everything. They were learning, and they weren't publishing enough. And I think the more interviews you do, the better you get at it. The more people discover you, the more you publish, the more comfortable you feel publishing, and then you become more yourself, and you become more the kind of person people want to listen to. And so I said, how do I make this easy for them? I don't want them to have to build out a website and then do it. I don't want anything to hold them up. So I said, anyone who signs up to Interview Your Heroes can get to publish their first interview on Mixergy, so that you go out and you get someone to do an interview, and you say, I'm also going to publish this thing on Mixergy, which then means that you can use all of the reputation of Mixergy to get your first guest, or to get that top hard-to-reach guest. But what you made me realize is that we're also going to put a deadline on it, so that they have to get it done by a certain time. Otherwise, people are not going to get things done.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to publish, to see their stuff out in the world, to start having these conversations.
And
your question about iTunes?
Andrew, real quick before you go to the iTunes thing, just because I want to address this. Guys, Andrew's really humble, and frankly, he doesn't have to sell anything because he's had a lot of success. You guys are asking what he keeps saying, Interview Your Heroes, what is that? He's going to give you something at the end, which you can, if you want, purchase, okay? You don't have to. He doesn't need the money, but he's going to tell you about it in a bit, answer all your questions totally free, but he's going to enable you to jump into that. So when he says Interview Your Heroes and he has the stuff on the back end and all this stuff, that's when you'll learn more about that. But he's unbelievable in terms of just giving this stuff for free. You know, as a kid, he has a lot of success. So Andrew, I want to thank you for that and just clear that up.
You bet. Yeah, I'll answer anything and show as much as I can, including that pipe drive, which I'm going to go home thinking, should I have shown that? Who knows what was on it? But I'd much rather push myself to share more than I should than not. In the past, I cared more about email than I cared about iTunes. So if somebody came to the site, I would want to see if I could convert them into a subscriber and then let them listen to the interview. We still do a lot of that, but I care much more about podcasting now. And so I shift people to the iTunes store, see that they're on iOS. I get people to try to subscribe. The question is, what do you care about right now? Where do you want to focus? Do you want to focus on email first, or do you want to focus on your podcast numbers first? And if you want to focus on your podcast numbers, do you care about iTunes more than others? And then if you do, then it's a natural. You keep pushing them. And I saw, Nathan, you do this. I wanted to listen to one of your interviews, and you very naturally moved me over to the iTunes page on the web, which triggered the launch of my iTunes app, and that's what I listened to you on, right?
I'll tell you though, this is a question, Andrew. I don't know if you get it a bunch for your Mixergy podcast, but for me, like I get nothing. I'm a very selfish person. Okay, I'm a very time-oriented guy. iTunes does nothing for me unless I'm ranked really high. People are searching, and they get me new subscribers because I'm ranked high. Anything else is just vanity. So, I mean, you'll see right now if I go to top charts in business. I mean, Andrew, you're kicking my ass, but I don't think I'm even in the top 150. Because I'm driving all my traffic. When I send an email blast out for a new episode, I'm driving it all back to my website because that's where I want them to consume the content. So I guess I'm down there with Joe Polish at number 143. But my point is, I only want to rank really high in iTunes when I think iTunes is going to do something for me. So right before the July 4th weekend, when people might be in the car traveling, searching for new shows to get addicted to, you're going to see me go back up in the top 10 like that. I know how to do it because I've tested it before. But I never, ever, any other time, I don't really care about ranking.
Oh, that's really a good point. I don't think my customers care about ranking either. They actually want to know how many people listen, and they don't care if someone's listening to the audio. They don't care if they're listening via video. They don't care.
Michael, what do you think, man? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So then, do you add up? I don't even know enough about analytics for podcasts yet. So like you just kind of add up all the like Android, Stitcher, YouTube, everything, and just have a number that you share with prospective people in terms of kind of like a media kit or just having numbers.
Andrew, you think, Michael, are you referencing kind of if you want to monetize and revenue-wise for sponsors?
And also for potential interviewers, just in case they ask, and
Here's
just
what you do for interviews, for interviewees. Give them the highest number you can. Add all of your downloads ever and say that is what it is. That's what everyone else is doing. And frankly,
I do something even different. Um, Even if I only had like one download, I just put will in my sentence. The podcast by the end of 2017 will have 100 million downloads, even if I have nothing. And it's totally truthful, but it just shows confidence. And for some reason, people see big number, they go, "Yeah, I want on."
yeah, that's a big one. And your advertisers, you give them the number and you tell them how you get it, but frankly, they won't care. What they care about is how many people are actually taking action and what do they back into. So when I started selling ads, I went to FreshBooks, the first big sponsor, the first sponsor of any kind that I had, and I said, let's just tell me, where are you advertising? What's working for you? And there are people at these companies whose job is to get new customers. So they want to talk to publishers about how to get new customers. So I called up that person, their acquisition person, and I said, tell me openly, where are you advertising? What's working? And most importantly, what's a user worth to you? And I forget the number, but I think it was like $7.50. So I said, okay, great. If I charge you $750 and I get you 100, and I get you, 100 people, does that pay for you? I said, sure. So that's what we did. And I said, look, I guarantee that I'm going to get you that many people, and if I don't, I'll give you a refund. All I want you to do is just share with me the numbers so that I see how active my people are. And that's what's most important. The numbers are just important for getting the first trial. What they really care about is after they try your ads, they care about what's the effectiveness? How many people am I getting?
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Super valuable. Yes.
That's like
Okay.
that's like the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest lie right now on podcasts. There's a lot of people that brag about how much revenue they're doing in their income reports from podcast sponsorship. And what they fail to disclose if they're selling an info product about podcasting or anything like that is the reason they have all that money from sponsors is because it's not from the placement on the show as a podcast sponsorship. It's because they're using their email list and their website and other assets to drive the sponsor customers. That makes the customer acquisition cost cheaper via their channel instead of Google ads or Facebook ads or something. And that's the big secret.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. There's just a lot of lies going on in podcasting because there's nobody who's actually showing numbers. I can show you my numbers for Vision's interview because I have Google Analytics, but there's not a good Google Analytics for podcasting, especially when you take into account the fact that people are listening in so many different ways.
That's
They're
right.
listening to the Wistia video. They're downloading the interview from some other site, right? There are people who will actually take your interviews, take your stuff, and put it on their networks, and you don't get credit for it on whatever system you're using to keep track of it.
Yep, that's great.
The system keeps finding them. Says, look, here's a website. They downloaded your interview. They're now posting it over there. I don't care.
Yep. Robbie's saying this is gold. Joe Cross is saying I love it. Michael, did you get your question answered? Are you good?
Yep, I'm good. Thanks, guys.
All right. Andrew, you record the interview. People are busy. They don't want to take time editing and getting this thing live. How do you do this quickly?
I'm so big on quick edits because it needs to be something that that's so easy to do that it's like having a conversation. So easy to do that you actually can pass it on to someone else to do the editing for you. So I'm going to show you my process, and I'll tell you that I don't do my own editing anymore.
You're going to show your screen here.
I'm going to share my screen.
So if you minimize and you're just listening to our voices, maximize. He's going to show you the screen and show you how he does these efficiently and cheaply.
Let me see if I could do. There we go. There, you can see that, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I use Skype. I make my phone call on Skype. As soon as I hit call, I don't even want to remember that I need to do it. Call recorder automatically starts recording my guest. I'm done. I hit hang up. Call recorder stops recording my guest. Then I have a file right there of my interview. I use call recorder to split it into two sides. I want a video for myself on the left, as you can see, and a separate file with my guest video on the right. There's an important reason for that. My audio and my guest audio probably won't be at the same volume because we're using different mics, different computers, different rooms, different echoes. Fine, doesn't matter. What I do is I use ScreenFlow to edit, and frankly, every single video program that you use is going to have this same look to it. So I come right into there, And all of them are going to have these same features. Right there is a canvas, right there is a timeline, and all you have to do is go to the timeline, drag the two files. In my case, it's my interview and my guest interview, right? Then I adjust it on the screen so that we're not like one overlapping the other. If you're not looking, you got to look at this. Otherwise, it won't make much sense.
Yeah.
There. Now they're lined up, one next to the other. I like to have an intro, so I grab my intro file, I drag it on the timeline to the beginning of the interview. I then go back and I make sure it's adjusted, and I take my side of the video and my guest side of the video and I bring it on the timeline so that it comes up right after the intro. I want to make sure that my audio levels are the same as my guests, so if I'm too loud or I'm too soft, I'll click on my video and I'll go into the volume setting on the right, you can see it, and just adjust it. And I listen using earphones. I also want to drag an outro video. I find it on my computer, I drag it right on the timeline, and there it is on the screen, on the canvas. That means that's what people are going to see. And now I'm ready to export it. Once I export it, I get a file that's a video file. There it is, myinterview.mp4. I send that to Wistia. If you want to use YouTube, you can send it to YouTube. If you want to use any other platform, you could. You now have a video file. But you want to go one step further. I want to also do MP3 so that I have an audio podcast. So I bring up this file, this program, which comes with Ecamm Call Recorder. It's just convert to MP3. I take my file, I drag it right on this. I take this MP4 file, the video file, I drag it on this program, and it gives me an MP3. That is exactly my full editing process. I now give this to a company called Libsyn. They host it, and they send it to iTunes. Super, super simple. I don't want people to futz around with editing for too long. You shouldn't have to. You want to keep it simple. Focus on the conversation.
Yeah, Andrew, I was going to say it's the number one reason that I see people stop interviewing is they get frustrated with the minutia of editing versus just having a conversation. You have to figure out a way to have somebody else do it.
Right. Right. It becomes, I had this guy, part of Interview Heroes. He shot beautiful video. He actually went to the guest's office.
What?
He shot himself walking to the office, right? He shot himself knocking on the door. Guest opened up. He shot himself going into their office. He looked around or had someone look around with the camera. He went to a back room with them, and he sat down and did his interview. He did 2 of those episodes. I emailed him afterwards, about a month or 2 later. I said, hey, I want to see what you're up to. What happened? Your site's down? He goes, nah, it's not just down temporarily. It's down for good. I said, why? He said, I should have listened to you and kept it really simple. I couldn't keep up with all the production. And he stopped.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's kind of fun to see the person walk to the office. You and I both are excited about it. But that's not adding substance to the conversation.
Yep.
And it's just adding a lot of work and a lot of money, and you shouldn't do it.
Yep, I completely agree. You know, the way people win podcasting or interview thing where you're trying to build momentum is you do the same thing consistently, better, longer than anybody else. So whoever has the best system, that's cheapest, and they do the best job interviewing wins in the long run.
And you know what? We keep talking only about video, only about audio. I think we have to think about lots of different platforms. Let me see if I could show you my screen real quick. There. This is the macro. It's a site by Y Combinator. Look at what their interviews look like. Here's Andrew Mason, the founder of Groupon. Now he's a co-founder of Detour. Question, text, answer for the text. Question for the text, answer for the text. There's so many different formats. Nir Eyal, the author of the book Hooked, he did an interview with me on Snapchat. One snap his question, one snap my answer, one snap his question, one snap my answer. I got so many people who came up to me afterwards to talk to me about that. And all he did was Snapchat. We want to think about this in every platform that's out there. Podcasting is really hot right now, but as a medium, interviewing just keeps growing and spreading through whatever program, whatever system, whatever we have. There will be one day virtual reality goggles, and I will be doing interviews in virtual reality too, and people will be doing them also.
Only if there's virtual tequila too.
You keep saying tequila because you're not a drinker. You are so not a drinker.
Scotch, you get me scotch, right?
Do you drink at all?
So I was studying and just obsessing over studying lives of like hundreds of these billionaires, reading bios of them and all this.
Right. I imagine, yeah, go ahead.
You'd be shocked how many of them brag about how many deals they get from being social and going to parties, but don't drink. Like the majority of the...
That's the way I picture you. It is not your thing.
Yeah. The wealthiest people, they are very social. They'll go to a bar at 11, 12, whatever. They'll go to the Vanity Fair party after the Oscars, but they don't drink.
Yes, there's the founder of Geek Squad is a good friend. He goes out to drink and he always has what looks like a drink,
Yep.
but what he does is he puts club soda in a cup with a little bitters. The bitters gives it some color and gives him a little bit something that will slow him down, and it always looks like he's part of the conversation.
Did I give you my yes or no, guys? You want to know my secret, my non-alcoholic drink that looks like a drink and makes it very easy not to drink and have no hangover, therefore I'm more efficient? Do you want to know my secret?
Yes.
You know what I order, Andrew? Shirley Temples. It's like a childhood.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a childhood drink. They put in club soda or Sprite. They go get 2 pumps of cherry, and boom. And the 2 pumps of cherry, it's kind of unhealthy because it's a lot of sugar, but it's great. It's way better than alcohol, and it works like a charm.
Yeah, I still love whiskey too much. It's too good.
That's great. That's great.
I would like anyone who's here who wants to do an interview and hasn't done any interviews, please tell me if you have any challenges. Tell me what questions, what I didn't answer. While you're doing that, while you're typing in, Nathan, interrupt me. I'd love to answer anything that they have. But I also want people, if they want to take this to the next level and be a part of a program that I am putting together, and it's only going to be open for the next, let's say, 2 hours, and then I'm going to close it down. Because frankly, I closed it.
I have to go deeper with you there for a second, because tell people what happened with this. When I emailed you?
Yeah, so I teach this from time to time because I've learned that the best way to really learn something is to teach it to someone else. When I taught Dale Carnegie, I was amazed that one of the students at the Dale Carnegie class was Warren Buffett, and I said, why? Why does Warren Buffett need to learn how to win friends and influence people? And it turned out it's because he was teaching people about the market. Warren Buffett taught people about the market. You see anyone who's really good at something, they want to teach others as a way of reinforcing what they know and forcing themselves to think about questions that they never would have thought of otherwise. When I teach Interview Your Heroes, I learn from the audience, and they teach me things, and they push me to figure things out that I wouldn't have considered otherwise. So I teach it. And I teach it maybe once a year. And you saw that I taught, and you said, Andrew, do you want to do a webinar to teach this to my audience and maybe get some of them to join this program, Interview Your Heroes, where you're teaching it more? And I said yes. And I opened it for a couple of days, and then I closed it. And I said, so when do we do the webinar? And you said, hey, I thought you closed it, so we're not going to do it. I said, I've never done webinars before to sell. I've never sold outside of my audience. How about if I just open it up just for your audience, and we'll see if we can get someone to come in. Yeah. And see if it makes sense for me to teach interviewing outside of my own community, my tribe that Seth Godin helped me create.
So I bribed the heck out of Andrew. I sent him a $100,000 check, and he said he's coming. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, guys, I just want to.
No, you said actually. I said to you, I've never done this before. What percentage do you take? What's the process? Can you say what you said?
I said nothing. It's because it's. I don't know. What you know, Andrew, because you interview some of these people, and I do too, the whole world of internet marketing and blah, blah, is like this. But the fact of the matter is, if you're playing a long-term game, you've got to fight like hell to get the smartest people in front of your audience. And I have a little autoresponder that I send out when people opt in on my blog. There's no links or anything. The subject line is, hey, and the text is, hey, I don't think we've met. How did you find me? Right? This is awkward. Like, I don't know you, but you know me. How'd you find me? And people will write back and say, I found you through this channel, that channel, and I know where to double down on. One of the questions, though, I started getting on these things is, Nathan, like, why are you podcasting and how do you interview? And I'm going like, frankly, I'm lazy. Like, I don't want to teach this to people. I don't have the time to do this. And then I saw your email. I'm like, let me get Andrew on to teach this. This will be great. After all, that's basically who I learned how to do all this from. So I wanted him to come on. But guys, I also know your time is very, very valuable. So I will ask you the question, and I see some questions here we'll get to in a second. But type yes, okay? Or type yes in the comments right now if you want Andrew to spend 4 to 5, maybe 4 to 6 minutes telling you about this program he has. I've convinced him to essentially open it just for the extent of the webinar. And if, let's say 50% of you say yes, actually say bye, just to signify your interest. If 50% of you are interested, I'll have Andrew do it. If not, guys, we'll skip right forward to questions. He doesn't need the money. And quite frankly, if you're not interested, we won't waste the time. So Andrew, I'm going to give people a second to kind of type some of this in. While they're doing that, answer this question. What would you tell? John Barr said, I've got skills and like I'm interested in interviewing, but I lack focus and I always procrastinate. Does the program help people kind of get over this psychological thing, or is it more tactical, would you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are two problems with this. First, people procrastinate and they don't do more interviews. That's why I want you to use that pipe drive system where you're sending out so many invitations that you have people on your calendar. So there are days when I don't feel like doing an interview, but if it's on my calendar, I'm going to do it. There's someone who's set to do an interview. I can't hide from that, right? So you want to have it on your calendar and the guest is going to hold you accountable. Some people want accountability buddies who are at the same level. No, I want someone who's like Barbara Corcoran, who is so much higher that I'm going to feel absolutely accountable to show up. So that's one thing that's really important. The second thing is a lot of people lose focus in conversations because they don't have enough experience figuring out, like, how do I stay focused on the person who I'm talking to, and their minds will wander and they become bad, not just interviewers, but bad conversationalists.
Hmm.
So what we have is, right?
Fascinating. No, it's fascinating. So Andrew,
Yeah.
people always go, Nathan, you always say that everyone's interested, but like we never actually know because you never share your screen. So like I will just show this real quick so you guys you should be able to see everyone else's comments right now. I have a screenshot. Okay. I'm serious, but we would skip over this so fast your head would spin. Okay, if people weren't interested, but people are going, yes, I'm interested in the class, says Yeva, John, Ravi, Michael, everyone's saying yes, by interested. So I'm going to pass the screen, Andrew, back to you. Tell us about this thing and what it's all about.
Okay. I will just say too that it's natural to lose track within a conversation. If you're talking to someone, we have techniques for keeping you focused. For if your mind wanders, what's a question that will bring the guest back and bring you back into the conversation? All these issues we've dealt with so many times. Let me show my screen right now. Here is the program. I'm going to give you a link to this if you want to sign up. It's mixergy.com/toptribe for a good reason. And what it's going to teach you is everything that I've learned doing interviews. I will be there to answer any question you have. There is not a single question that you're going to have about how to do interviews, how to get people to come to your site, how to get your guests to promote you. There's not one of them that I haven't bumped into over my last, how long? 8 years doing interviews, since 2008. And I will answer and get you started and get you doing your interviews. And if you're already doing interviews, get you doing them way, way bigger than you've done before. Too many people don't know the how to get big audiences, how to sell from it. So you can see here are the modules. First thing we do is just think through, who are you trying to reach? What's your brand with this? Who's the niche you're going to go after? And we get you to really focus in. Then I'm going to give you all the tools, every piece of software that you need, including, I showed you Pipedrive. We got 6 months of Pipedrive for free for every single one of the people who's in this program, because I want to make sure you have the tools to do well with this.
I mean, that alone, Andrew, that's charging. I mean, I think the monthly charge on that program is 30, 40, 50 bucks a month. That's not cheap.
And to know how to set it up is really critical. I want you to set it up in a way that holds you accountable, that actually will fire off alerts to you to make sure that you know what you need to do, and will also show you data. So if I'm talking to you and we'll do one-on-one calls, and if you tell me that you've invited a lot of people and they're not saying yes to you, I want you to show me your Pipedrive and then turn to the stats section so we can see how many invitations did you really send out. That's really critical to make sure that you're staying on top of things. And we'll show you the software you need to edit. We'll show you the software you need to publish. We'll show you what to do to get into the iTunes store, to get featured there. I mean, literally, to get featured there, we've got a contact there I'm happy to introduce you to. I'm going to show you how to land guests.
I don't have that. The whole feature thing, my gosh, I've been searching to find a contact. I don't have that contact. And I know getting featured on iTunes is a big way to get new subscribers. That's valuable.
And it's hard because, first of all, they seem to switch people there all the time. I don't know what it is about the job of featuring people or interacting with podcasters is so hard. People seem to get fired or quit on a regular basis, so you have to keep finding the next new person to talk to over there. Yeah. And you have to know how to get them to feature you. They're not going to feature you just because you've got a podcast. They have to feature you because you've got an event, and there's certain ways to do it. We'll be happy to make the introductions for you too. We're going to show you how to get guests to open up. I showed you a little bit of that here, but we have a whole doc internally that we use at Mixergy that anyone can use. I literally, in the past, used to keep that Google Doc up on my screen. If someone clammed up, I'd go to my doc and say, there's got to be one of these techniques that's going to get them to open up. It was one of my crutches and one of the benefits of doing interviews via Skype. No one can see my screen. I could just look at it. I know there's a technique in here. I pull it out and get them to open up. It's really easy. I can show you how to do it. And also how to get them to be interesting. What do you do to get someone who's not used to being on camera to be so interesting that people send them thank you notes? I'll show you how to get traffic from your interviews. There are ways to do it, and I showed you one of them here today, right? I asked the guest. I showed you another one. You ask the guest posse, get them to to help promote it. There are tons of ways to get your guests and their names to help promote your interviews, to get you traffic to your site on a regular basis. By traffic, of course, I mean not just getting people to come to your site, but I love it when people also sign up to my mailing list. I love it when people end up, frankly, even becoming customers. I love it when they subscribe to the podcast. So I say traffic as an entry point into your life, and you want that magnet. And I'll show you how to do that with interviews and monetizing. It's really important that we monetize our interviews. I did an interview. When I switched to charging for ads, I got a lot of flack. When I switched to charging for content on my site, I got a lot of flack. It was really harsh, some of the things that people said. There's a way to not make it be that harsh, to have the audience root for you, to figure out what to charge them that they want to pay for. And I'll show you what we did, what others in the Interview Heroes community did, and I'll walk you through doing it yourself. There's one other thing that's kind of new that I want to highlight for you right here. You can see it in both options. I want you, where is that? Oh, did we take it off? There, here it is, a bonus. I want you to get your interview up so fast that you don't need a site, that you don't need to build a reputation, that you can just go and say, look, this interview will be up on Mixergy along with the thousand plus people that I interviewed. So if you want the very first interview that you do after you take this course, I will publish on Mixergy.com, and that will help you get guests. Imagine emailing a guest and not just saying, I'm a new interviewer, or emailing a guest and saying, this will go on my new site, but saying, I want to do an interview with you. It's going to go up on Mixergy. Mixergy's got hundreds of thousands of fans, and I will also publish it on my site. Right? And when you say I'm going to publish it on Mixergy, you can say on the site that's featured, and then you could give the names of the people who I featured in the past to give them a sense of what's coming up. It's really powerful. I'm offering it only now, and as I said earlier, only with the limited time within the course. So even if you take the course, I want you to get it done by the time the course is over. So there are a couple of different levels. I want you to pick it yourself, whichever works best for you.
And what's the link? Repeat the link again if people are asking.
Yes. It's Mixergy.com/top-tribe.
And Ravi, I see you just typed you're checking out right now. We'll unmute you in a second. I want to ask why you're buying, but it's Mixergy.com/top-tribe. I'm putting that in the chat right now. Tell people about pricing and options.
Yeah, there are basically two ways to do it. The first is you do it yourself. You still have the community of people. We have other people on Facebook who've done interviews, who are doing interviews right now, who will be there and help you, and I'm in there all the time answering questions. And for most people, that's all they need. But if you want to go a step beyond and actually get on calls with me on a regular basis, every week we get on a call, I beat you. I mean, I will whip you into action. We tell people, turn on your screen, send out your first email. I will stay with you. There's one guy, it took him so long, Nathan, to send out an email. But he was on the call, he turned on his screen.
Why? What took him so long?
Because he was overthinking what to write in it, and I wanted him to see what it's like to write an email on his own without using our swipe file.
Got it.
And it was taking him so long to think about, how do I get the person to say yes? What about including this? And we met before. That I actually said, you know, I'm here for you still. I have other calls. We've gone 2 hours here. I've got other calls. I'm just going to mute myself. I'm going to keep watching you, and I'm going to take the calls that I have for the rest of my day. When you need me, I'll be here. And he worked through it all on his own, and by the time before we hung up, he sent out that first invitation, and he got a yes from it.
Love that. I love that.
And I'm saying that to you because I want you to know I'm there with people on these calls. It's not just these giant sessions. There are very few people on the calls, and so we put that together because I want you to ask questions of me on a regular basis, but I also want you to take action on the call. And then I'll also in the VIP program, I'll also be your first interview. So if you want me to interview on your site, I'll be there. You can ask all the questions you want. You could screw up and redo it if you need it. I want you to get this done right. And I'll tweet it out, of course, and help promote it.
It's important. Ravi, I have you unmuted. Is your microphone connected? Oh, no microphone. That's okay.
And I will still stay on to answer questions beyond this.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I will tell you guys this. There's a big secret that Andrew didn't necessarily state directly here on this, that I haven't stated directly, but every person that has a top podcast in the top 10 knows, and that is the cheapest way to get new subscribers is getting on other people's shows, right? Because there's no way you can like launch a Google PPC ad or a Facebook ad exclusively to people who have iTunes, who listen to podcasts. The quickest way to get other people's audiences is to go on their show, right? And have them interview you, and you casually mention your podcast title. So the fact that Andrew is going to take your first interview and put it in Mixergy, it basically, you can never guarantee anything, but it basically guarantees two things. The first is that your show will go on New and Noteworthy. I mean, we're not going to guarantee that, but it will get traffic that will get it ranked high fast. And the ranking system on iTunes is based off velocity of new subscribers over a set period of time. So if Tim Ferriss is going from 1 million subscribers to 1.2 million or 1,012,000 subscribers, he's only adding, 1.2%? Versus if you're going from 0 to 100 subscribers in the same amount of time, your percentage increase, your velocity of increasing is higher. That's why people go to the top of iTunes when they launch and then drop like a rock. So the fact that Andrew's going to publish you on or publish the interview.
It'll be on Mixergy.com, but you just helped me think of something that we were going to upload it to our host and host the file, but it's much better if they want. They host it. So whoever's listening to us, if you're in the program, if you want to host it on your site and we put it up on, if you want to host it with your podcast host and then include the link on our site so that when someone's downloading it from us, they're actually downloading it from you and have it increase your numbers, I think that's a good way to do it.
Sold.
But my goal is to just make it really easy for you to publish. I really want you to get your first guest easily by saying this is going to go up on Mixergy, here's the audience, and also on your site. And I want you to be able to easily publish on our site. We have the tools. In fact, my team will even publish it for you on Mixergy.com.
So guys, it's great. I see a lot of you commenting, yes, buy. You guys saw kind of the screenshot. Here's what I'm going to do. This can't, what I'm about to say means, unfortunately for Andrew, I'm not going to let these sales go unlimited. In other words, I'm not going to let as many people buy as they want, because what I will do, Andrew's fantastic. He's way bigger than where the Top Entrepreneur podcast is, but two's better than one. I will feature you as an entrepreneur on the top podcast, okay? And I will let you mention your podcast, your interview, your show, if you decide to purchase, but we're going to restrict this to 2 more people. So if you've already bought, we'll give that to you. I'm going to give this extra kind of thing out as a little bit of extra incentive, because I know some people, we like to sit there. You're distracted by Facebook right now. You're like not paying attention. You never take action, okay? That's not good. So I want you to take action, but it also means we have to restrict it, because I don't want to have like 2 months of people coming on that just bought this course. So we'll do it for 2 more people. It's mixergy.com/top tribe. Andrew, you cool with that?
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great idea. Thanks for doing that.
Totally. That's great. Let me get into more questions. Again, the link, guys, mixergy.com/top tribe. Here's what a question from Gail Sibley. She says, I think it's the techie stuff that's stopping me from starting. Does the course address this?
Yeah, I can walk you through every part of it. The techie stuff seems intimidating until you use it, and then you realize it's the easiest part of all this. I refuse to make it hard. It has to be so easy that you can publish on a regular basis. I want it to be like having a call with a friend. It should be that easy.
Yeah. So Ravi Bojwani said, I'm in. Ravi, you don't have your microphone connected. Connect your mic and I'll unmute you. Or Ravi, what I want you to do, if you have a phone number, or if you have a phone, just call me real quick, and I'll answer your phone call. My number is 703-431-2709, and I will message that to you right now. I want to get you talking. I want to hear the reason you did this, and it's going to be exciting. I just messaged you that number, 703-431-2709. Andrew, another question from Joe Cross. He said specifically, what was the editing software you used? The name of it?
I use ScreenFlow. I use ScreenFlow because it's just an easy program to have and to work.
Great.
I use ScreenFlow for little things like I'm recording our conversation right now, and I use ScreenFlow to capture it. I use ScreenFlow for everything. If I want to quickly edit video, I put it into ScreenFlow. Super simple.
That's great. Joe Cross, another one from Joe Cross. When you're just launching your show, how do you position it if you have nothing to show?
Well, what you do is you figure out what you think it's going to be, and you just publish that.
Yep.
So when I started, I wasn't exactly sure that I was going to talk to entrepreneurs who built successful companies. I just published what I could, what I knew at the time, which was I'm curious about these people who are coming to my parties, and I want to do interviews with them, and that's all it was. And then I started to realize there's this group of people who I really want to know, and they're super achievers, and that's who I focused on. So you pick something now and you refine later.
Yeah, that's great. I want to say this too because it's a pet peeve of mine. There are so many people that spend so much money on online courses and they don't do a damn thing. They sit there and twiddle their thumbs. They annoy the hell out of you because you know what they do? In like 30 days, they ask for a refund. And it's a pain in the ass to go into your Stripe account, get their email, refund, all this bull. Do not buy this thing, guys, if you're not going to take action because it will drive, well, maybe it won't drive Andrew crazy, but it will embarrass me to Andrew. He's having to take time to do like any kind of refunds or things like that, even though I'm sure he has an amazing refund program and all that jazz. Do not buy this. If you're one of those people that sits on their hands, you buy all these courses and you do like nothing with them. That would not be a good thing.
No, for some reason I take that very personally. If someone even has an excuse, I take it very personally, like they went on vacation. Well, you couldn't do something emailed before you went on vacation? Let's do it right now.
Yep.
I
Rob,
will get on a phone if I have to. Make sure.
Hey, hi.
how are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm okay.
So you
Thanks for
watched,
doing it.
what'd you think of Andrew? You just purchased at mixergy.com/top tribe. Why'd you buy?
I'm just like the fire, ready, aim thing, and I think I'm ready for it. I'm ready to hold myself accountable, and just a lot of things are in a line, sort of thing, right?
Andrew, what do you think?
I think it's great, and I want it because you're someone who's a fast mover. I want to talk to you. Nathan, do you have his phone number?
I don't have it, no, but Robbie, you can message me on here.
Message him. I want to
Okay,
talk.
okay, sure.
Good. We'll
I
have
can
a phone
just-
call. I want to understand why you signed up, what you want out of it, and I want us to work together over the next few weeks to get you there. Okay?
Appreciate it.
Robbie,
Good.
welcome, man. You had a lot of fun.
Let's not take too long.
All right.
Wow. Okay, I'll just get that number to you.
Sounds good.
Good. Yeah.
All right, Andrew, don't you love these? That's why I love webinars. You can like talk to people, you can engage. I can say, why the hell did you purchase this? And they go, here's why. It's fantastic.
That's my favorite part. I love talking to anyone who's signed up to anything that I've created. I just am so curious. Why'd you join? What are you looking for? How do I get you there?
Yeah. Very good. Well, guys, again, Andrew's unbelievable. We're 24 minutes over that. You know, he's great with his time and he would never cut me off, but we all have plans. I want to take any last questions for Andrew, even if you didn't purchase. That's how Andrew operates. He's an unbelievable guy, hugely giving. Any other questions, type them in right now. Okay, type them in right now. Or if you want to raise your hand in the attendee box, I'll unmute you if you have your mic connected.
Oh, sweet. I love that.
And Andrew, Robbie just sent me his number. I will send that to you right now.
Thank you.
In the chat, so you have it.
I'm going to call him.
Yep. All right. Okay. Sami Khan said, "What's one thing that's true about interviewing that no one else would agree with?" Little Peter Thiel action here.
That you should be selfish. That as an interviewer, you have to think about what do you really care about, and if you don't, if you try to just do it for someone else, the guest, to make them look good, feel good for the audience, it's never going to be genuine. It's never going to feel right. It's never going to get to the thing that really matters. So if I would have just talked to Seth Godin about what I thought people in the audience cared about, I don't think it would have been as helpful for anybody as me saying, you know, Seth, I really don't have an audience. This was back when I started. I don't have an audience. You're telling me to build a tribe. How do I even get anyone to come to my site, let alone create a tribe where they're all talking to each other? That's the genuine thing. So I want you to care about yourself. I want you to be a little selfish in your interviews.
Yeah, that's great. Next question. We've got one. Oh, what was the person's name? Here we go. John Varr said, what's the best free tool that you use as part of your kind of podcasting or your interviewing process?
Everything can be free. There's a free version of every single thing that I'm talking to you about. I guarantee it. So for example, we talked about Pipedrive. That's probably the most expensive software, and you can use my URL to once you sign up, you can get 6 months for free. But if you want to use a free version of it, you can use Trello. Trello has all those columns. Trello will do everything that you're looking for. There's a free version of every single thing that you're doing. It's not about money. It's about whether you're willing to actually take action, be curious, ask questions, have the guts to send out emails asking people to do interviews with you.
Yep, that's great. That's really great. I will tell people too, Andrew. I don't know that this is not something that I really share much with people because there's a lot of free tools out there like that Boomerang that kind of already do portions of this. But I
Mhm.
spent, I want to say it was like almost $5,400 on this Chinese developer to build this little email tool for me that I use specifically for getting podcast guests, where it will tell me like the first email that I send, I'll have 4 or 5 different like tests that I run, and it will sum up all the data after I sit down and email 50 people, 10 person chunks for each subject line, and tell me the ones that got the highest open rates, highest reply rates, and highest
Really?
scheduled interview rates. And it's been powerful. It's free. I'm just because I know this is a very curated community. I won't ever post this anywhere really online, but you can use it. You're welcome to use it if you want. You'll actually get the personal email. Like my personal emails that I send for podcast interviews are built into the tool because it's supposed to only be used for me.
I see.
Do you know what I mean?
And we can edit it to use it for ourselves?
You can, exactly. So you can see
Oh,
what I'm
wow.
already using, and I called it the top inbox appropriately.
You could sell that tool.
I
That's
could sell
super
it.
helpful.
I could sell it. I don't think I will. It's really
You don't
powerful.
want to get back into software like that?
Every investor that I had in Heyo, you know what they told me, Andrew? They said, Nathan, you have to do media. They said, we see you on webinars. They're like, you are really good at media. You should do media.
I
So
get that.
yeah, I love
Yeah,
software.
I've been loving watching you now at this level. I feel like you're unleashed. Like with Heyo, maybe there are certain things you couldn't have said, but now you can push back on people. You can actually be a little aggressive with people who are all supposed to be in awe of. I saw you do that, and I said, I can't believe he's getting away with this. This is the
Which,
way you should be
which
talking.
one? Which do you remember?
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd want me to say it. It was what was that called? That social media examiner? Is that what that site is
Mike,
called? Where you
Michael Stelzner.
I
Oh,
don't know what happened that started such an argument, but I like the way you were talking in there.
I could never get away with that if I had to worry about what investors would think the day after.
No, right? Or if like your customers would have been upset because you had a very conservative group of people who were
Yeah.
business people, right?
Cougar, the
We,
Cougars, the Cougars stuck with me, but any evangelicals, I lost. No, I'm just kidding.
even the fact that you were just like drinking out of a water jug while you were talking to him on camera, I thought was a pisser.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, there's something valuable, I think, to just saying what you feel, right? Try not to attack, but just say what you're really feeling. Like, if you're
Yeah.
curious if they've had sex, ask them if they've had sex. If you feel like people are doing email marketing,
How old were you? I forget. Actually, I do remember.
it was a blab. It was a blab.
No, no, I mean, how old were you the first time?
Oh, what year would that have been? So I'm
You
26.
don't know the age
That
like off the
would have only been 3 years ago. 23.
really,
Yeah,
and you never felt.
I don't like, to be quite honest. I really don't like sex. I think it's just really inefficient. I don't like it right now.
Are you serious with me?
Huh?
You're serious?
Yeah.
You don't like sex because it's super inefficient?
It's very inefficient. And
Have
my
you been in love?
it's just very look, I don't like look, we're right now, like we're in my room right now doing this interview. Okay, so I have a great view of downtown Austin here above my bed. Okay, when I'm laying here, okay, let's say like I'm sleeping, right? I'm in my bed and I wake up in the morning, right? And you're in a bad mood, and I have to like mirror that bad mood, because if I jump up all giddy, you're gonna go, babe, like you're not thinking about, like, you're like not on my level. Like, I don't want to have to spend my energy thinking about the other person. I'm just really selfish right now. It might be an age thing.
But wait, have you been in love? Do
That's
you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, of course. That's
Okay.
a tough question, but I mean, I don't know that it's one of those things that's irrational. I'm very bad with irrational things. Do I have
Love is irrational.
Yes, I've totally said I love you. Was I in love? I don't know.
What if you were with someone who brought out the best in you, who pushed you to be even more Nathan, who actually noticed little things that you were doing that were, let's say, inefficient, who could make you more efficient? Would you feel
I think I'd love that. I think I'd love that. I'll tell
love
you
that?
what, Andrew. I think one of the reasons that, like, in order to get to that next higher place, you have to give first. And because I've never experienced the high like that you and Olivia created with each other, I might not know what I'm missing out on. Right. So I'm trying to figure out how to kind of break through at that initial level when I feel like there's a spark, and kind of just let it happen, and control myself to put up with some of the inefficiencies so I can experience the true upside. And we'll see if that works.
Wow, I've never heard anyone say, I don't want to have sex because it's inefficient.
Yeah, that's a headline for you. It's true.
Yeah. Oh, I wish this was in a Mixergy interview. That headline would get me so many downloads.
I'm
That would be a
happy to
noteworthy
want to be
thing.
totally transparent and talk about all of this.
You do talk about this.
No, I don't. I've never really before, not like this. I mean, there's like 28, I mean, there's people watching, but I would be happy to come on and discuss it. I don't have to worry about my, billionaire investor going, why the hell were you talking about sex on Mixed?
Oh, we've got to do that. We've got to have you talk about that.
Happy to. Happy to.
All right.
Let me see, Andrew, if there's more. I'm not, by the way, avoiding the question and trying moving on. I'm totally comfortable talking
I
about
can see that, actually. No, you've answered some of the tougher questions. I'm trying to figure out who joined here, but my freaking computer froze. That's why I don't want to restart it. That's why
Sammy Khan said,
looking to the right.
I love your transparency. Stella said, I love you, man. I love that. That's funny. Stella said, take your time. You'll find it one day. Michael said, love the shares on love and sex. This is interesting. Wow, everyone's talking about sex now. This is a very interesting webinar. Very good. Any last interviewing questions? Anything at all for Andrew?
Yes. Anything else before we go?
Yeah. Oh, Sammy, you have your hand up. Okay, let me unmute you. Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Let me go get it. There you are. Samit Khan, I've got you unmuted, but it doesn't look like your microphone's connected. It's not green. So you have to connect your mic in order for us to hear you. Anybody else?
Too bad. Or, yeah, they're not on the phone, are they?
No, that's the only downside about GoToUp.
Not at the phone.
Gail said this, and this is like, she's kind of asking for a magic bullet here, but we'll see how you respond. What's your starting question in an interview?
Ooh, you know what? It depends on the guest, but here's an easy one to go with. Give them the easiest question that they can feel comfortable answering fast. So it could be something like, what year did you start? Because they're just as nervous as you are. And if you give them an easy question, they answer fast, they keep the answer short so that you don't have to interrupt them, and they feel like, I got this. And then they feel ready to go with the interview.
Yeah, that was a good one. John Barr said, hey, Andrew, what's the best tip for a youngster to build an online business at 18 or under?
I think at 18 or under, you should be learning from people who've done it. So Gary Vaynerchuk, I love the guy. I've interviewed him for years. I've known him for a long time. He says that you should maybe not be an entrepreneur right from the start. Maybe you should go work for someone who's really smart, who's achieved a lot, so you can watch how they built their business. You can watch how they act day to day. I could never do that. It just wasn't me. I'd much rather just talk to them. Find a way to talk to them.
That's good. Michael, I'm going to unmute you. Michael, real quick, connect your microphone, man. I see it's gray right now. Michael, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Michael.
Tell me real quick, you just signed up for the VIB package. Why'd you sign up? Why'd you pay?
Oh, cool.
So I've learned after investing like $100,000 in my own development over the past couple of years, like the easiest way to become friends with people is to just sign up for their stuff. And and I've noticed this both ways. Like there's coaching clients that I've had who we haven't been working together for over a year, but like I still think of them and I send them stuff and I introduce them to friends and I still give them just amazing opportunities just because they're just kind of like one of my peeps, and this offer is just like a no-brainer offer for me. There's just so much value for I think $1,000. I didn't even see what I guess $1,200. So I'm just excited, and I know that like money is the strongest sign of commitment there is, and I'm super committed to doing this podcast, and I mean I might as well get tutelage from one of the best.
What's a win for you with the podcast? If you look back on this at the end of 2016, what would make you feel like you rock the podcast?
A win. I have huge goals. It'll be the top podcast for men in the men's space, and I've been planning this for like months and reverse engineering successful podcasts, and I'm going to be interviewing CEOs, celebrities, thought leaders, and also everyday heroes, because there are a lot of men out there who are just awesome guys, but they're dads or nurses or firefighters or police officers. So my big goal is just to share like amazing stories of transformation, whether that's in the realm of business or arts or music or theater or being a dad or husband, which is also super honorable.
Yeah, we can do this. And I know how you're feeling being stuck. I can definitely unstick you. In fact, I think I have your phone number here. It's the 520 number, right?
Yep, that's it.
I'm going to call you once we're done here, and I want to make sure, actually I'm going to call Ravi first since I promised him, and then I'm going to give you a ring. Are you going to be around?
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'll be in an Uber to the airport. But
Okay,
that'll be perfect. So
good. It won't be our last conversation, but I want us to talk about how to get you there.
definitely.
Okay,
Michael, it's
writing it
fun.
down. So.
It's really fun watching you, man, and it means a lot to me. I know you're listening to the podcast. It means a lot to me. It makes me smile every time you share something. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, you too. I love you, dude. You're it's yeah, I just love hearing you interview people and yeah, it's you've been a real it's like disruptive innovation in the podcast space. I really appreciate you
You
just for
like
just
the
rocking.
aggression, don't you? You're a lovey-dovey guy, but you love the aggression a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, I'm lovey-dovey, but I also have like very little tolerance for like bullshit and
Yeah.
and
I like that about your interview style, Nathan, that you have very little tolerance for bullshit, and you're also very good about just digging into the numbers. Like, how many other podcasters would use the phrase ARPU? Right?
You know, the first person who ever asked me about that, Ryan Alice with Eye Contact, before he exited Devocus. I don't know if I've ever told the story. I can talk about it now. We were almost. I mean, it was the board meeting. He was going to buy Heyo for $7 million. And one of the questions that came up during due diligence was, Nathan, like, where's your ARPU? And I said, ARPU who? Like, we have Joanna, Sam. There's no ARPU. He's going, no, average revenue per user. I mean, I only learned this stuff because other people taught it to me. So I love doing this with the audience. I hope it's valuable. I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, it is. And it's unusual for people to even think about it, like you've shown.
Someone has to do it. The thing is, I don't really have anybody controlling. Like, my actions don't affect anybody else right now except me. So I have no problem with being super aggressive and, quite frankly, mean if I have to be, because I don't care about the guest. I care about the listeners.
I love that too. I love how you also give your phone number.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked at some point, I said, let me see, did he give another phone number? What phone number am I using? And I'm using the phone number that goes straight to your phone. It's not like it's going to help desk or some other software like line 2 or something. It's going directly to you.
That's
And
right.
that's the same number that you gave out.
I'm not a perfect human, okay? So you will see I have, 113 I'm still working on getting to.
Holy crap.
I get a lot, but I try and respond to every single one of them because it's just, I think it's really, really important to do that. So, Michael, appreciate you, man.
Yo, thanks guys.
You bet.
Let me give my phone number out to anyone who's listening, who has any questions. Don't text me forever. Let's just do it. I want to open this up for the next 2 hours. If you have any questions right now about signing up or about interviewing, I'll do my best to respond. I'm not like Nathan where I give my phone number everywhere. So we're not going to be texting buddies for the rest of our lives. I got to go back to my work and my customers and my audience. But if you have any questions, I do want to answer. I don't want someone who's listening this far into the program and has a question to not have a response. So here's my phone number. Write it down. Ask me. It's 310-463-9345. 310-463-9345. If someone wants to text me right now just to make sure that it really is coming in, I'll get it.
That's great.
All right.
We'll take 2 more questions, Andrew, before we wrap up. So that's a good one. How do you strike the balance between taking notes during the interview and engaging at the same time?
You know what? For a long time, what I did was actually say, I am taking notes on this. And people really respect it. Guests don't usually have people who take notes on what they're saying. Right? How many times, Nathan, do you speak and see someone just whip out a pen? You're not like the leader of North Korea, right? He's got these people standing around him with notes. Most of us don't have that. So imagine how flattered as the guest is when they say something and they see a pen coming out. I noticed when you pulled out a pen a couple of times today, I felt flattered. And the audience, too, sees that you care so much about what you're doing that you want to learn from it, too. It's like when I used to sell sandwiches door to door, and at the end I would eat the sandwiches that weren't sold. My dad said, "How many restaurants will actually eat their own stuff?" It shows how good your quality is. You should be proud of it. So that's what I would err on the side of taking more notes. Be more comfortable with it.
Last question: if a guest is one of those guests that just gives the one word, how do you keep the conversation going?
If the guest only gives you one word answers?
Yeah, like you're asking, like, well, tell us about like how you drove revenue, and they're like PPC, and they're silent. How do you get them talking?
Okay. What you want to do is people will tell stories to no end if you give them an opening to telling a story. So here's one technique, and there's no one magic bullet, but this is one big one, and there are others in our arsenal. One is to ask them about the time. So you might say, tell me about your first customer. Tell me about how you got the latest customer. Tell me about one customer that you got. How did you get that one customer? And then they take you through that story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrew Warner, guys, host of Mixergy, a guy that we're learning from 5 or 6 years ago. Andrew, I appreciate you taking over 2 hours joining and coming on today, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on here, man. Nathan, I really love this. This is my first time. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I enjoyed it. I can talk like this forever, and I'll be responding to text messages. Ravi, Michael, I'm going to call you next.
That's great. Guys, real quick, I'm always curious. I love doing this. I'm very protective of the audience. Scale 0 to 10, 10 being the best. Did you like Andrew? Should I have him back? Just tell me in the chat. And Andrew, I always know you love feedback, so I'll get you a screenshot of that too. But guys, tell me that real quick. In the meantime, I want to thank all of you guys. Get back to what you're doing. Have a lot of success. Take action. Andrew Warner, thank you, bud.
Thank you.
You guys.